Well, class, welcome back to today's tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about angle of depression. Angle of depression. Now, just before we get ahead of that or on to that, let's recap what angle of elevation, what we talked about with it in the last lesson. Angle of elevation, remember, is when looking up to an object, the angle of elevation is formed by an observer's line of sight and a horizontal line with angle of depression. We are talking about depression is looking down. When looking down to an object, the angle of depression is formed by an observer's line of sight and a horizontal line. So now, we're still taking into effect an observer's line of sight, which is represented by green in both of these illustrations, and their line of sight, represented in blue. Notice that in angle of elevation, the little boy is looking up to the top of the lighthouse. In angle of depression, the lifeguard is now looking down to the swimmer. In both instances, we create a right triangle, and so therefore our angle is formed. Angle of elevation looks up, is looking up. Angle of depression is looking down. So we see the resemblance of that. Now, one other note here. The angle of depression is congruent, remember what congruent means, to the angle of elevation because they are alternate interior angles. Now, what are we talking about? So if I take a person whose line of sight, let's say that I am standing up on top of a building, and I have my line of sight, and I look down at one of you students on the street. Your line of sight are parallel. So now, as I look down at you and you look down at me, would be the transversal. So therefore, alternate interior angles are congruent. So the angle of elevation to the angle of depression formed is congruent. So now let's take this and apply it a little bit of knowledge. So now, draw a diagram. Then solve for the missing part, round to the nearest tenth. If it is an angle, just a key note, we want to round it to the nearest whole number. Remember, angle equals whole number. So, number 5. A lifeguard is sitting on a platform looking down at a swimmer in the water. So once again, so we've got the platform up here. We can draw that illustration if we'd like. So he's there in the chair looking down with his line of sight, looking down at a swimmer. So he's out in the water. Just that is a right triangle that is drawn. Sorry about the noise. The lifeguard. If the lifeguard's line of sight is 8 feet above the ground. So now, if he's 8 feet over here above the ground, that can translate to being 8 feet over here above the ground as well with his line of sight. The angle of depression to the swimmer is 18 degrees. Here's the reason why we like congruent angles. If that's 18 degrees, so is that one. How far away is the swimmer from the lifeguard? Okay, so let me clean this up and show you what we really have. In essence, all we have is a right triangle. The lifeguard is 8 feet above. Their angle of depression was 18 degrees. That can be translated here. And we want to know how far is the lifeguard or swimmer from the lifeguard. So we're looking for X. So therefore, going back to our SOHCAHTOA. Remember that is sine opposite opposite over hypotenuse, sorry. We've got cosine, which is adjacent over hypotenuse. And we have tangent, which is opposite over adjacent. So, in reference to our angle, we have the opposite and adjacent. So that would be tangent 18 degrees would equal 8 over x. X is on bottom, so let's switch it out. Tangent of 18. Plugging that into our calculator, we get approximately 24.6 feet. 8 divided by the tangent of 18 degrees gives us 24.6 feet. Number 6, let's look at the next one. A pilot in a helicopter spots a landing pad below. If the angle of depression is 73 degrees and the horizontal distance to the pad is 1,200 feet, what is the altitude of the helicopter? So if I'm up in a helicopter, I'm going to have a line of sight of 73. Same here. We are told that it was a horizontal distance of 1,200 feet. So we're looking for x. Once again, tangent 73 degrees would be equal to x over 1,200. That is simple multiplication here. 1,200 times the tangent of 73, x would be equal to 3925, 3,925 feet. So in this lesson, we have 2 more examples. Once again, I would like for y'all to pause the video after you have worked the next 2 problems. Come back and check your work. Really put some effort into it and seeing that we can do it. Okay, so let me make one note change. This is 1,200. Okay. So I hope you've paused the video and been able to work it. Number 7, you should have got an answer of about 193.2 feet. And with number 8, I believe you should have gotten 141.1 feet. So let's look at the 2 of those. Number 7, a building is 480 feet tall. So building A is 480 feet. All right, so building A is 480 feet tall. Building A. Building B is 600. So we have building B. Building B, 654 feet tall. If the angle of depression from the top of B, so here's the line of sight, looking down, is 42 degrees. So we can do the line here. So this angle in here is 42 degrees. So that means this angle also is 42 degrees. How far apart are the buildings with the 2 heights? Now, some of you may be thinking, well, we don't have enough information. All we have are the building heights. Exactly. We can take the difference between the 2 building heights to actually know how high our triangle is. So, in our right triangle, if we redraw that, so we have what? An angle of elevation and depression of 42 degrees. The building heights, you have a difference from 654 to 480 of 174 feet. And we are looking for the distance between the 2 buildings, x. So that is tangent of 42 degrees is 174 over x. And It gives us 174, or x equals 174 divided by the tangent, 42. So x is approximately 193.2 feet. So once again, still, if you haven't finished number 8, let's pause it. Let's rework it, or go ahead and work it. Number 8, Zach is standing at the top of a lookout tower and spots a water fountain below. If the lookout tower is 75 feet tall, he's 75 feet tall, and the angle of depression is 28 degrees, so angle of depression, 28 degrees. Angle of elevation, the same thing, 28 degrees. What is the horizontal distance between Zach and the water fountain? The horizontal distance, once again, let me move this up. We are looking for x right here. So that would be tangent 28 is equal to 75 over x. X equals 75, tangent 28, which is 141.1 feet. So there you have it, angle of depression. So with this knowledge, you can finish your homework assignment, and let's go ahead and start working our trigonometry review pages, making sure that we are up to speed on that. I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Hope y'all have a wonderful day.